What's your not safe for work confession? I didn't get the scar on my knee from wiping out on a motorcycle and cutting it open on the pavement when I was in college. I got it from playing with a chicken way too vigorously and falling from the top bunk in my dorm room. Story 2. When I was with my first ever girlfriend in high school, we walked back to her house when her parents were at home and fooled around. Her and her dad came home shortly after. We were able to stop and not get caught, but her dad said hello and said it was nice to meet me and stuck his hand out. I ended up shaking his hand after his daughter's Vivi. After you get the hint. Story 3. I had a similar thing happen to me in high school with my girlfriend at the time. Except I'm 100% sure her dad knew what we were doing. He came home while we were mid-act. So I quickly threw my pants and shirt back on, and after some crappy excuse about helping her clean the house, I left. As I was walking, he came up and offered me a ride home. I kept my hands very far away from him and I said, "Nice weather today," to which he responded, "Not really." The rest of the ride was silence. Got home, thanked him, and hightailed it inside, where I was finally able to take the condom off. Story 4. I went to visit a neighbor friend after our school, but he wasn't home. He had gone on a bike ride up the mountain nearby. He would be gone for a couple hours at least. His older sister was there on a college laundry trip. She said that I was getting all grown up. She said something about her clothes shrinking and could I help her with her laundry. The girl just took charge. It was like a PO, but with even less story than usual. They had a huge master bathroom that even had chairs. We banged right there. It was absolutely great. She was only my second partner. We finished up, and just as I was done pulling my pants up, he walked in the door, all sweaty from his ride. She met him in the hallway. I kid you not, he went into the bathroom, and before closing the door, he grabbed the towel that was laying on the chair and wiped himself off. His sister and I watched in amazement as he rubbed the sea rag all over his neck and face. But it wasn't at work, so it's not a not safe for work story. Story 5. On a first date with a woman whom I wasn't sure about. She was very attractive and funny, but I didn't feel like I clicked with her. She wanted to go on a second date, and I agreed, but I had made up my mind that this would be the last. We ended up at my place, and she gave me a BJ and swallowed. Nobody had ever swallowed to me before, and I really dug it. So I decided I wanted more of that, so I went on more dates with her. That woman is now my wife of 20 years, and I am madly in love with her. I don't know how she'd take it if I told her that if she didn't swallow, I would have broken it off. Update. I don't know if people are still reading this, but I decided to tell my wife. Thanks to those who said that there was nothing to be ashamed about and that it was actually sweet. It encouraged me to be transparent. My wife's response was simply, and I quote, "I know. Why do you think I gave you a BJ on our second date? I only did that with my boyfriends, not dates. I never effing swallowed unless I loved them. I knew you were the one and you were a keeper. All is well." Is it just me or is this story not that romantic? I don't know why people are saying like, oh, it's so, I don't think that's sweet. Well, why are we saying this is sweet? Story 6. I dated my crap ex because I liked her butt. I am not a creep nor do I stalk people. Then got to know her. An awful relationship. I couldn't understand why I entered this crap. I mean, I am old now. I'd never like her again, and she wasn't this good looking or hot. Fast forward years later, after the breakup, I was walking in a totally different area. Saw a wonderful butt in a light jeans. Said to myself, what a nice butt. Looked up, it was her again. Same butt, different geographical location. That, my friend, is called destiny. You're meant to be with her. Like, yes, is she the devil? Probably. But, you are meant to be with her. Story 7. During grad school, I worked in a lab that had a high-end microscope. As a grad student who pulls all-nighters at the lab, I would sometimes rub one out and look at my swimmers under the microscope. It's a weird feeling to see the spunk that you've been seeing regularly most of your life and just discard as some inanimate fluid to be teeming with life. It was also interesting to see how varied the activity is between the sperm. Some are super energetic and active, some are mildly moving around, and some are stuck in what looks like, I'm not going to even say that. Listen, if you ever question your life, if you're ever wondering, do I have too much free time? If you're doing this, yes, you have too much free time in your life, and you need to change that. Jesus Christ. Story 8. Many, many moons ago, I was still working at Home Depot. There was a cashier there that all the dudes would talk about. She was a very attractive young woman with a very attractive body to go with it. Super sweet as well. I happened to be browsing Reddit one evening at my house and saw this user's nudes. Nothing uncommon here. However, this user had a small but pretty unique tattoo on her hand. A tattoo that happened to match this young cashier's. When I went into work the following day, I saw the young woman's hand, and sure enough, it was the same tattoo. I never spoke a word of it to anyone. Some of the dudes that worked there were already obsessed. However, on my last day, some of the employees took me out to a bar after work, and she ended up showing up. I was outside smoking, and she came out, and I just straight up asked her what was the name of the user account and explained why. She went as red as a fire truck. I told her I had known for almost a year and hadn't said anything, so her secret was safe with me, but to cover up that tattoo before someone else figures it out. I'll never forget her face. It was priceless. Story 9. I used to know this guy when I lived home, still in Florida, and he'd smoke me out all the time, and would watch movies and eat. I'm gay. And one time I hadn't smoked from the bong in weeks, and I decided to take a huge hit and clear the bowl as fast as I could, to get super stoned, because back when I was 21, that was essentially my goal. Anyways, after I coughed for legit probably 8 minutes straight, and finally feel my lungs will keep working, as I've drooled on the table in front of him from coughing so hard, cringe, I get legit stuck on the couch. I was having strobe vision where the room would begin to spin and then snap back to original and start spinning again on repeat. I knew I effed up. And after I continue escalating to the point of being almost uncomfortable in my own skin, not talking, just staring straight ahead, basically through the TV, not even knowing what was going on, I feel my bowels churning, hard, sudden, as in, bruh, you're going to crap. This is your warning. Well, I'm feeling extremely awkward. I don't want to have diarrhea in this guy's bathroom, so I decide it's best to leave so I can walk around his apartment complex for a bit and then drive home when I come down a bit. Solo time. Good time. Let's go. Halfway down the floor flights of stairs, I get the worst cramp I've ever had in my life. I'm talking it started my lower my back, and it ended up making my butt feel like it was being pressed with a hydraulic press. I have to kneel down on the stairs and put my head down. I am just beyond overwhelmed with the pain. What the crap? I need to get to a gas station. Going down the stairs will be easier than climbing back up, and awkwardly try not to crap myself on the way to his bathroom. By the time I reach the ground floor, I am farting like crazy. It's too late. There is no time left. This must be what it feels like for someone who has no control. This is awful. I quickly assess my surroundings. Close to 2 a.m., nobody should be looking out their windows. There has to be a bush, or the side of a building or something. Next to the wall of the complex that towers a good 10 feet or so, I see one of the electrical boxes situated behind a tree away from the parking lot. The crap is coming. I have to go, or I'll crap my pants. Legit took my sweatpants and shoes off and squatted. I'll spare the details, but it was the most disgusting relief I've ever felt. But now I had a new problem. What the F am I supposed to wipe my butt with? The shirt that I was wearing wasn't a favorite. I ended up throwing it over the wall of the complex, and of course what happened? It landed right on the very top, half on my side and half on the outside, covered in feces on display. The next night I came back to smoke and the shirt was gone. Had it fallen? I don't know. I hope you enjoyed my story. Story 10. Once I was coming back home at night, tipsy from some wine. I went into an alley. Wasn't even that much of a back alley, more of a parking space / garage entrance of a multi-family story building. It was pouring rain, and the alley was even particularly dark. And then I stripped naked and played with the chicken into the rain, just standing there in the alley, jacking it. When I was finished, I put my clothes on again and went home. I have no effing idea why I did it. It was uber risky for no apparent additional gain. I can't imagine why I was so uber in the heat that night. I sometimes think back on it and I just think, of all the things, WTF, why? Story 11. In 2016, I worked at a local Walmart and hated it. Literally tried everything to get fired. One night after work, I met up with someone and we did the intercourse in the employee parking lot. The very next day, the store manager called me to her office because they caught me on the surveillance. I proudly confessed that yes, that is me, and it's exactly what it looks like. The store manager just sighed and sent me back to my department. I finally quit a week later. Story 12. Uber driver. If he started getting dirty in the backseat, I would totally turn on a playlist for lovemaking. The first track was always the song Genuine Pony. Hell, if you weren't done when we got there, but we're going separate ways, I'd offer to leave for a quick walk so you could finish. And no, I didn't have cameras. One guy couldn't close one night even after playing with the cat. So I played some Lonely Island songs for him. Needless to say, I got fat tips. Jesus, I respect the work hustle and all that, but I don't think it's ever worth your seats getting, a little. Story 13. Many years ago, I needed to eat something before a 14-hour international flight, so I hurriedly choked down a chili hot dog and Lay's potato chips. On a fully packed plane, I proceeded to fart nearly once per 5 minutes, and it smelled exactly like sulfur hot dogs and Lay potato chips. I pretended it wasn't me by covering my face with a shirt and acting just as revolted as the 20 or so people around me that could smell it so graphically. It was so pungent that the cabin crew assumed it was a lavatory at first. I've never felt so guilty and laughed so hard at a situation. I was a walking biohazard that day. Jesus Christ. Could you imagine just paying $800 for a plane ticket only to smell the fumes of someone's butthole for the whole flight? That's a beautiful. Story 14. I was super in the heat, desperate, and got no omegle. Met a woman, talked for 2 hours, and decided to hook up after only seeing one picture of her and her one of me. Wasn't even 100% convinced it was a chick, because we only lived 4 hours from each other, and I was about to spend 6 months in a third world country. We met, talked, and hooked up, and then 2 days later, I left the country for 6 months. I came back home after 6 months, and she came over to my house. This woman is now my wife. Story 15. I never completed college. I found a college transcript and diploma in between the pages of a world atlas at a yard sale. The person was born the same year as I, so I just legally changed my name to match. It did it for me the first job in the field. At first job swap, they also had a look. I have changed my job 4 more times without anybody requesting to see my diploma. I did make sure to actually visit the campus, hang out a bit, learn the names of the buildings, sit in some classes just in case I would ever run into someone from the same alma mater. It would be bad to not know basic info about the place. Story 17. At 15, I was dating the opposite sex. Said person and I would constantly tease each other, as teenagers would do. My partner's mother would constantly walk in on us, and we spent 100% of our time in the game room. She made it very obvious that she knew that me and my partner were getting a little handsy, since she walked in the room one day with a box of condoms for us to use. Her excuse for giving us the condoms was because she was 15 once. We waited until my partner's dad left home and the teasing started. Things escalated. Somehow we end up in the bedroom, condom on, ready to go. Right at the end of it, it was like a light shone down, hit my head so hard that my body made a sudden realization. I felt no attraction to what had just happened. I did not like the opposite sex. Everything after that made perfect sense. I started dating the same sex. Felt so much attraction to it and loved it. Story 18. We were at a friend's house, a few blocks away, when what turned out to be an earth-shattering crap began to develop. I walked there, but as I felt it coming on, I thought if I left right then, I should make it home. I was wrong. Maybe 1/3 of the way home, all of a sudden, it was clear the crap was coming, and it was coming now. I found someone's front yard with a couple of trees, dropped my pants, and proceeded to take the absolute worst dump I've ever had. I wiped with the boxers I was wearing and threw them in the garbage can up the street. This was over 10 years ago, and the memory is still fresh in my mind. The smell and consistency will be forever seared in my brain. I think from reading all these stories, I think we've learned one thing, and that is, if you think you can make it home and you gotta crap yourself, don't do it. Don't. Story 19. I have 2, with the same girl. When I was in high school, my dad owned a business that wasn't open to the public. On the weekend, there was only 1 employee for each shift, and I had the day shift on Sundays. My girlfriend went to work with me. Towards the end of the shift, I was trying to get her to give me head. She was afraid the next shift employee would walk in. I assured her that this wouldn't happen, because the lady didn't have a key, so we would know she arrived because she would have to ring the bell. Well, 5 minutes into my chicken in her mouth, in walks the lady from the next shift. I had no idea my dad had given her a key a few days earlier. My girlfriend never went back to work with me. The second incident, same girl. She was riding me. The room was dark and I felt something fall between my thighs. I thought she had taken her hair tie off, or it just fell. As soon as we were done, she got up and went to the bathroom, which was unusual because she loved to have the chicken in her mouth when we were done. I could still feel something on my thighs. It felt like a little rock, so I turned on the light. It was a little crap ball. She did it while riding me. I didn't want to embarrass her, so I took her off to bed and threw her into the hairdresser. Don't know if she ever found out. Story 20. My mother caught me and my first boyfriend when I was 15. I assured her I was ashamed and it would never happen again. I did consent to it once and told her that. But I also wasn't lying when I said all the other times I had not consented. She decided that I must have been pressured into it the last time, even if it wasn't full-on assault. So she trusted me that I would wait until I was 18. I smashed the next guy less than a month later. I already lost my V card, so who gives a F? Then I got sent to a mental institution that tried to make me straight. My mother didn't know it was conversion therapy when she sent me, but she's also refusing to apologize for accidentally sending me to conversion therapy, so I don't forgive her. Got out a few weeks before my 18th birthday and downloaded Grindr. Hooked up with the guy pretty quickly. Had a guy spend the weekend in her basement staying on my 18th birthday. The guy when I was still 17 was only 18. Not a concerning age gap wise. Guy the night of 18, but we chatted at 17, with no photos exchanged, was only 21, so still not a concerning age gap wise. I'm 20 now. I'm on PrEP, fully vaccinated on monkeypox, use condoms, and have been with 29 men total. No plans of ever slowing down. My mother knows I'm not waiting for marriage, nor does she ask me to, but she also thinks I am monogamous and will love him first. No clue what my father thinks. I've hated him since I was 14 and haven't seen him in person since I was 15. Story 21. Not really not safe for work, but here we go. When I was in 5th grade, our teacher decided a fun field trip would be to take the whole class to the police station and meet all the cops. For context, I grew up in a rural Midwest town. I'm talking the police station, library, and the Dairy Queen all on the same road. Rural. So this was the pinnacle of entertainment. We arrive and get the grand tour of the 4-room building, getting to meet all the officers and see the inside of a cop car. They even put a couple of us in the jail cell for a photo, and ordered pizza for the whole class. All in all, not a bad day for a bunch of kids. But before they let us go, there was one more fun activity, and that was getting fingerprinted. Why a bunch of kids thought this would be cool, and more importantly, why the cops wanted these, are questions that occasionally haunt me to this day. I won't say that I was particularly good or evil child, but I've definitely always had a flexible moral compass, and even in the 4th grade, I knew that fingerprints wasn't something I wanted with the man. So I convinced a classmate who I'll nickname Alex to put his fingerprints on my card, and in return I'd pay him $3, which I was always given for lunch money. However, I told him that he'd have the money the next day, even though I had the money that day. I'm not exactly sure how they found the duplicates so fast, as they didn't see us making them. But they did, and they called us into a separate room with a teacher and demanded some answers. I was just going to say that he and I must have had some really similar fingerprints, but Alex squealed and jumped ship before I could bring up the life raft and confess that I put him onto it. My raft was sinking? No, because I turned that back around and said he'd put me up to it, and even took out the $3 he paid me for it. In the epilogue, I got away clean, and they forgot to retake my prints. Made a cop angry with no consequence to myself. Alex got grounded because his dad was a firefighter and friends with those cops, and I got to keep my $3. Story 22. Everyone thinks that the scar on my head is because I slipped in my bathroom and hit my head somewhere, which is partially true. But in reality, that was when my in the heat teen self had first discovered anime pee. I was playing with a chicken to that in the bathroom, and it got so intense that when I got up to leave, I passed out and hit the door's handle. I'd say that was a very scarring experience to have, quite literally. Story 23. I shot a rubber band, finger gun style, at my office door at work. A female colleague walked by right as I did it, and it hit her square in the middle of her breast. Her left one in particular. She walked into my office, closed the door behind her, pulled her massive breast out from her dress, and checked to make sure it didn't leave a mark. She looked at me and said, "Good, no mark. Otherwise, you'd have to come give it a kiss to make it feel better." She put her breast back in her dress, turned around, and left. Story 24. I recently struck up what I thought was a flirty friendship with someone at work. They're in a different department and would come to my office to gossip occasionally. Things have escalated. They close the door now when they come to chat, and touch me and hug me regularly, sometimes very intimately. I try to talk about it, but they deflected, and we don't really have contact outside of work because of shift differences. Recently, they sat on my lap, and I think my brain almost shut off. I was so surprised. I checked my Fitbit later, and you could see the heart rate spike when they did it. At this point, I'm kind of infatuated, but I don't know what to do about it. I think about kissing them all the time. Story 25. I didn't get the scar on my left arm because of a friction burn. I got it because my mother beat me with a shower head and a huge stick in the middle of the night that caused a scar to my arm. The friction burn is the one I've always told my parents when they see it, because I was scared to embarrass my mom to other people, so I told nothing about it. Luckily, the scar went out now. Story 26. I like the concept of banging. I like reading and writing stories about it. I watch pee when I feel the physical need for it, and there's kinks I fantasize about. The problem? I'm in the asexual spectrum, probably demisexual. I hardly feel attracted towards another person in order to actually wanting to bang with them. Basically, banging as a concept slash fantasy equals awesome. Banging in practice slash real life equals meh. I do hope one day to find someone that can understand this and is willing to accept me as I am. Someone I can form a true deep connection with, and maybe after that I can try to do my weird kinks with said person. Story 27. When I was 15, I snuck in my then girlfriend's house while everyone was asleep, and I lost my V card. After that, all we did was F. I think I might have accidentally screwed that relationship up because all I did was go to her house to smash for like 4 years. We did it in the weirdest places. Once, while there was a football game going on, I convinced her to smash me under the bleachers, and later that day, we did it under the stairs in the school.